Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My fiancé's friends once joked that she had a backup fiancé if I ever messed up. Everybody laughed, including me. I remember actually thinking, smart. That is how the night started in my memory, but what I cannot forget is how it ended. Me walking over to the so-called backup, dropping the engagement ring into his hand, and saying, "Tag in, man. She is all yours." The silence in the room after that felt like the air had been sucked out of my apartment. My name is Daryl. I am 32 years old, and until recently I was engaged to Shanice, who is 29. We have been together for 4 years. For the last 18 months, we have been living together in my apartment in a mid-sized city in the Midwest. My name is the only one on the lease. I signed for the place years before she moved in, and nothing about that arrangement ever changed. It was always in my name, and I always pay the rent. We had gotten engaged 6 months before the night everything fell apart. The ring was actually a running joke between us. On a weekend trip, we had gone to a craft fair upstate in New York. There was a booth with handmade jewelry, hammered sterling silver bands, delicate little stones, everything lit by those warm market lights that make you feel like you are in a movie. Shanice's eyes landed on this simple sterling silver ring with a single clear cubic zirconia. It cost exactly $100. I remember telling her we could save for something more traditional, maybe a diamond from a regular jewelry store. Shanice laughed, squeezed my hand, and said she did not need a blood diamond. She said this ring felt like us, simple, practical, low drama. She insisted we buy it, and promised we would upgrade to something more expensive on our 5-year anniversary. I took that as a sign that she was grounded and not materialistic. I wore my pride around that ring like a badge. Looking back, I tell myself I should have paid more attention to actions instead of symbols. The engagement party was supposed to be a celebration of that promise. It was a small thing. Maybe 15 people squeezed into my apartment, balancing paper plates on their knees and nursing drinks. The place smelled like wings and spinach dip and store-bought cupcakes. On the surface, everything looked normal. Shanice was glowing. She had on this soft, cream-colored dress that hugged her just right, her curls pinned up with little gold clips. But something fell off. Every time I came near her, she drifted away like smoke. Instead of hanging close to me, Shanice stayed in tight groups with her 2 closest friends, Tanisha and Felicia. They stood in corners, whispering, glancing at their phones, then at me, then back at their phones. And right next to Shanice, practically glued to her side, was Terrell, her old college best friend. Recently, he had become her support system, her words, not mine. The man seemed permanently attached to her hip that night, laughing at every joke, leaning in a little too close. I had brought up Terrell before. I had asked why they had suddenly gotten so close again, why she was going over to his place so often, why he was suddenly the one she needed to talk to about everything. I got the standard script. "You were just being paranoid. I would never cheat. Terrell is like my brother." The first time she said that, I felt guilty for even asking. The 15th time she said it, something in me started to itch, like my instincts were knocking, and I just kept ignoring the door. The party moved into that awkward, gift-opening phase. We sat on my couch, and everyone gathered around. We got a blender from one couple, fluffy white towels from another, a set of mismatched mugs that were somehow charming. People cracked jokes, and I did the polite smile, the polite thank you, and tried to ignore the way Shanice's energy shifted whenever Terrell stepped closer. I could feel his presence like a second light source in the room. Tanisha had been hitting the Prosecco hard. After her 3rd or 4th glass, she stood up, swaying slightly, and clinked her glass with a fork. To Shanice and Daryl, she called out, her words slurring just enough to make people grin. Everyone lifted their glasses. I lifted mine too, trying to push down the knot in my stomach. Tanisha raised her glass higher. "Seriously, to Shanice, the smartest woman I know. She has it all figured out. Great job, great guy." She winked at me. I gave a small nod. Then Tanisha kept going. "And she is so smart," she said. "She even has a backup plan, right, Terrell?" The room shifted in one breath. People laughed nervously, the sound flattening in the air. It was not really silent yet, but it was like everyone inhaled and forgot how to exhale. I looked over at Shanice. Her face was bright red, but she was not looking at me. She was looking at Terrell. and she was smiling. Not a nervous smile, not a horrified one, just a quiet, pleased little smile. Terrell, who should have been mortified if this were truly just an innocent joke, smirked and raised his glass toward her. "Always, Shanice," he said. The nickname he used for her made my stomach twist. Tanisha, somehow not catching the tension, kept rambling. "I always tell her, if Daryl ever messes up, you have Terrell on the bench, ready to go. That is our little joke." This time, the room really did go silent. The words just hung there between us, poisonous and bright. In that moment, every red flag from the past 6 months lined up in my head like soldiers on parade. The late nights she swore she spent with the girls, but her location, yes, we shared locations, showed her near Terrell's apartment instead. The way she suddenly started guarding her phone, flipping it face down whenever I walked into the room. The brother lunches that stretched into 3-hour outings. The way wedding venue talk had quietly died out without either of us saying why. It all clicked so fast that my ears started ringing. Everybody was looking at me, waiting for my reaction. I could feel his eyes bouncing between my face, Shanice's face, Terrell's smirk. So I gave them a reaction. I laughed. Not the awkward laugh you choke out when you're uncomfortable, but a big, loud, convincing laugh that I pulled from somewhere deep in my chest. "Tanisha, that is brilliant," I said, pushing myself up from the couch. "Honestly, Shanice, I am impressed. A contingency plan? That is good risk management. Always have a plan B." Shanice's smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed like she finally heard herself, as everyone else had. "Daryl, what are you doing?" she asked. Her voice had a thin, brittle edge, as if she already knew something was slipping away. I held up my hand like I was still joking. "No, seriously," I said. "You are right, Tanisha. A backup makes perfect sense." I walked over to the coat rack, casual, like I was just adjusting something. In the inner pocket of my jacket was a little velvet box. Before everyone arrived, I had taken Shanice's ring off to clean it, wanting it to sparkle for pictures. I pulled out the box, felt its weight in my hand for a heartbeat, then turned around and walked across the room. I did not stop at Shanice. I walked right past her and stopped in front of Terrell. He still had that half-smirk stuck on his face, but his eyes were confused now. I held out the velvet box. He stared at it like it might explode. "Tag in, man," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "She is all yours." I did not just offer him the box. I reached for his hand, opened his stiff fingers, and dropped the box in his palm. You could have heard dust fall on the carpet after that. Tanisha's mouth dropped open. Felicia's eyes went wide. Shanice's color went from red to white so quickly that I half expected her to faint. Terrell snapped his hand close around the box like he did not know whether to give it back or hide it. I turned away from him and looked over the room. "Party is over, everyone," I said, raising my voice so it carried. "Thanks for coming. Please leave my apartment." It took a second for my words to sink in. Then chaos broke loose. "Daryl, stop!" Shanice shrieked. "What are you doing?" It was a joke. A stupid joke. Her voice cracked on the word joke. I met her eyes and felt something inside me stop begging for explanations. "Was it a joke when you were at Terrell's apartment last Tuesday?" I asked quietly. "Or the weekend I went to visit my parents?" Her mouth snapped shut like I'd slammed a door. I caught the flash of realization on Terrell's face. He had not known that I knew about the visits. Or maybe he had believed the version of the story where I was paranoid and controlling. Either way, I did not care anymore. "Everybody out," I said, moving to the front door and holding it open. People scrambled, grabbing their coats, their shoes, their bags. No one made eye contact. It really did feel like a bomb had gone off, and everyone was just trying to get clear of the blast radius. Tanisha and Felicia tried to guide a sobbing Shanice toward the door, but she dug in her heels. "I'm not leaving," she yelled. "This is my home. You cannot do this." My voice did not rise. It went flat. "It is my apartment, Shanice. You are not on the lease," I said. "You, Tanisha, Felicia, and especially you, back up," I added, looking at Terrell. "All of you need to get out." Terrell looked like he wanted to vanish. He placed the ring box on the side table near the door and practically sprinted out. Tanisha turned on me. "You are a monster, Daryl," she snapped. "You are hysterical over nothing," Felicia added. Shanice just stared at me, tears running down her face. "You are throwing away 4 years over a joke," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, Shanice," I said. I am saving myself from a lifetime of being someone's plan A while they are auditioning plan B. Now get out. She finally stepped through the doorway. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt, and slid the chain across. I stood there with my forehead against the door for a moment, feeling my heartbeat pound through the wood. Then I walked back into the living room. The engagement party had become a graveyard of half-eaten snacks, empty glasses, and torn gift wrap. The little ring box sat on the side table, exactly where Terrell had left it. I picked it up, but did not open it. I set it down again and sat on the couch, staring at nothing. My phone started vibrating almost immediately. Calls, texts, notification after notification. I turned the screen face down on the coffee table and let it buzz. About 10 minutes later, the pounding on the door started. Shanice's voice cut through the hallway, high and shrill. "Daryl, open this door. You are being insane," she shouted. Tanisha added a stream of insults. Felicia chimed in, calling me controlling and cruel. I sat there, staring at the ring box. After a few minutes, I heard a male voice join in. Terrell had come back with them. "Man, just come to the door," he yelled. "We can talk." You are making her cry. The absurdity of that almost made me laugh again. I walked into my bedroom, picked up my noise-canceling headphones from my desk, and slipped them over my ears. I turned on a video game and let the sounds of the game fill my head instead of their voices. 20 minutes of pounding, yelling, and sobbing blurred into the game soundtrack. Finally, I took off the headphones. The noise from the hallway was still going. I felt a calm settle over me, the kind that has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with a line finally being drawn. I picked up my phone and called the non-emergency police line. I explained that I had just ended an engagement, that I had asked guests to leave, and that a group of intoxicated people were refusing to go and were banging on my door. I put the phone on speaker and set it on the side table close to the door. When the dispatcher's voice came through, "Sir, are you in immediate danger?" It was loud enough to be heard in the hallway. The pounding stopped instantly. I heard panicked whispering outside. "He is calling the cops," someone said. "We need to go. Shanice, come on. He is crazy." By the time I saw the flash of police lights through the window, the hallway was quiet. They were gone. I answered the officers' questions, told them the situation was under control now, and thanked them for coming. When I sat back down again, the apartment felt huge and hollow. My phone had turned into a glowing brick of notifications. I ignored it that night. I slept badly, waking up in the early morning to a dull headache and that heavy feeling in the chest that sits where hope used to live. When the sun finally came through the blinds, I gave up on sleep and picked up my phone. I started scrolling through the messages, one by one. There were more than 80 texts from Shanice alone, along with a string of missed calls. The tone swung wildly. "How could you do that to me in front of everyone? It was a stupid joke. You have serious trust issues. Then, fine. I am at Terrell's. Are you happy now? You drove me to him. Then, you are throwing away 4 years of memories." Another message said, "My mom is horrified. She cannot believe you would be so cruel. I'm coming to get my stuff tomorrow. We're going to talk. You did not even let me explain. Terrell is just a friend. You twisted everything." Tanisha's texts were pure venom. "You are a psycho. Shanice is destroyed. She loves you. You are a monster. I hope you enjoy being alone. You are an insecure weirdo." Felicia's messages were similar. "You humiliated her for no reason. You ruined your own life." Even Terrell decided to weigh in. "Man, you really overreacted. It was a joke. You owe her an apology." Shanice's mother, Denise, had sent a long paragraph insisting Shanice was a good girl and telling me that whatever I thought happened, I was wrong and owed her a conversation. I did not respond to a single one of them. Instead, I blocked every number. Shanice, Tanisha, Felicia, Terrell, even Denise. One by one, I hit block. It felt cold. It also felt necessary. After that, I called a locksmith and scheduled a visit for 8 in the morning. The locksmith showed up on time, a quiet older man who did not ask questions. He replaced the deadbolt with a high-security one and swapped out the doorknob lock. I paid the $280, signed a receipt, and thanked him. When he left, I turned the new locks a few times just to hear the mechanism slide into place. That sound felt like reinforcement. Then I started packing. I grabbed every empty box I could find in the storage closet and from the recycling room. I went room by room. Every item that clearly belonged to Shanice went into a box. Clothes, shoes, hair products, makeup, chargers, notebooks, knickknacks, the fancy coffee mug she loved, the throw blanket she insisted we needed. I try not to look too closely, but there were moments when something dragged me back. At one point, I found a little shoebox where she had kept movie ticket stubs, printed photos, and small notes I had written and slipped into her bag over the years. I sat down on the floor of the closet with that box in my lap and just breathed for a while, remembering the version of us I thought was real, the one where loyalty was a given. My chest hurt, but the anger came back fast when I found a framed photo of Shanice and Terrell from college sitting on her desk, their bodies pressed together, faces close. I wrapped it in packing paper and put it with her things. Shanice had 3 main pieces of furniture that were truly hers: an antique-style vanity her aunt had given her, a tall bookshelf, and a $700 ergonomic chair she said she needed for her work-from-home setup. 6 months earlier, she had begged me to buy that chair on my credit card, promising to pay me back in installments. She had paid exactly $0. By late afternoon, I had 14 boxes neatly stacked in the entryway. The vanity and bookshelf were pushed closer to the door. The apartment looked stripped in places, but it also felt clearer. I was tired and wired at the same time, so when the pounding on the door started again around 4 o'clock, I was almost expecting it. I checked through the peephole. Shanice stood there alone this time. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her expression had gone from pleading to furious. I opened the door with the chain still latched. She tried to shove it, but the chain caught. "Daryl, let me in," she snapped. "My key does not work." I kept my tone even. "I know," I said. "I changed the locks." Her eyes went wide. "You what? You cannot do that. This is my home. I have rights." I shook my head. "No, Shanice. It is my apartment. You are not on the lease," I said. "You are a guest here. I have decided that guest status has ended." She stared at me like she could not believe I was speaking out loud. "A guest? I have lived here for 2 years. You cannot just throw me out like this." "I can," I said. And I did. "We are broken up." Her face twisted. "You cannot break up with me over a joke," she yelled. "I am getting my stuff." I nodded toward the entryway behind me. "I have packed your personal belongings," I said. "They are in boxes by the door. You can schedule a time to pick them up. You will have 30 minutes. You can take what is in the entryway." "That is it? You pack my things?" she repeated, incredulous. "You are unbelievable. Open this door and let me in." I shook my head. "No," I said. "We will not be alone in this apartment again. You can schedule a supervised pickup. That is all." Color rushed into her face. "What about my furniture?" she demanded. "My vanity, my bookshelf, my chair." "The vanity is yours," I said. "It was a gift from your aunt. The bookshelf is yours. The chair," I paused on purpose. "The chair is the one I paid $700 for. You agreed to pay me back and did not. When you pay me the $700 you owe me, you can have a chair." Her mouth fell open. "That is extortion. You are stealing from me. That is my work chair. I need it." "Then you should have paid for it," I said. "Or maybe not had a backup fiancé." She glared at me, eyes wet with angry tears. "I will call the cops," she threatened. "I will tell them you are stealing my property." I shrugged. "Please do," I said. "I will happily show them the lease and the credit card statement. I will explain how your joke got you kicked out. Go ahead. I will wait." She stared at me for a long moment, breathing hard, then spun around and stormed off down the hallway, already dialing her phone. 2 days later, there was another knock at my door. This time, when I looked through the peephole, I saw 2 uniformed police officers standing there. Behind them, down in the parking lot, I could see Shanice and Terrell by their car, staged like a sad little scene, her looking distressed, him doing the supportive shoulder touch. I took a slow breath, opened the door, and stepped back. "Sir, we received a call about a domestic dispute," the older officer said. "A Ms. Shanice claims you locked her out and are refusing to return her property." "There is no dispute," I replied calmly. "She is my former fiancée. I ended the relationship last week and asked her to leave. She is not on the lease and does not live here. She left her belongings, which I have packed and stacked in the entryway." From the parking lot, Shanice's voice floated up faintly. "He stole my stuff. He has my expensive chair." The younger officer looked at me. "Sir, if she is a legal resident, you cannot change the locks and keep her out. That would be considered an illegal eviction." I nodded. I understand, I said. That is why I have my lease right here. I handed over the printed copy, my name the only one listed as tenant. Her driver's license and bills go to her parents' house, I added. She never legally established residence here. The younger officer scanned the lease. The older one glanced at Shanice, then back at me. She does have property in the apartment, he asked. Yes, I said, stepping aside so they could see the boxes. 14 boxes, plus a vanity and a bookshelf. I have repeatedly offered to let her schedule a pickup. She has refused unless I give her full access to the apartment, which I am not comfortable with. He is lying. Shanice shouted from below. He is keeping my work chair. It costs $700. The younger officer sighed. Sir, what about the chair? He asked. The chair is a disputed item, I said. I handed him a copy of my credit card statement with the chair purchase highlighted. I bought it. She agreed to reimburse me and never paid a cent. I told her she can have it as soon as she pays the $700 she owes. Until then, as far as I am concerned, it is my chair. The rest of her things are here and ready to be taken. The officers exchanged a look. The older one spoke into his radio. Dispatch, this is a civil matter. Property dispute, he said. Then he turned back to me. We cannot force you to give her the chair, he explained. That is for small claims court. But we can supervise a civil standby, so she can retrieve her undisputed property. Are you okay with that? Absolutely, I said. Thank you. They went down to get Shanice and Terrell. The next 20 minutes were some of the most uncomfortable of my life. The two officers stood in the doorway. I waited in the living room. Shanice and Terrell walked back and forth, trip after trip, carrying out boxes, the disassembled bookshelf, the vanity. Shanice sobbed loudly the entire time, hiccuping, shaking, making sure every tear was heard. Terrell kept casting angry looks in my direction, as if I had somehow tricked him into all of this. As Terrell picked up the last box, he muttered, You are a real piece of work, man. Just give her the chair. I kept my face neutral. You are welcome to send me $700 via payment app and take it yourself. Backup, I said. The older officer let out a short bark of surprised laughter. Terrell's face went red. He grabbed the box and stalked out. This is not over, Darryl, Shanice choked. You are a thief. Okay, Shanice, I said calmly. Have a good evening. I closed the door once the officers left. For a brief moment, I thought that might be the end of it. The apartment was quieter, emptier, but I could finally walk from room to room without seeing her things everywhere. I went back to work, tried to reestablish a routine. Then a few days later, my phone rang in the middle of an afternoon conference call. I checked the caller ID. It was my landlord, Leon. I stepped off the call and answered. Hey, Leon. Everything okay? I asked. His voice had that hesitant tone that sets your nerves on edge. Hey, Darryl, he said. This might be nothing, but I want to check in. Is everything all right over there? Yeah, I replied slowly. Why do you ask? I have gotten 3 anonymous calls to the management office in the last 24 hours, he said. All from so-called concerned tenants. My stomach dropped. Concerned about what? I asked. Leon sighed. The first call was about constant screaming and arguments coming from your unit, he said. The second one claimed there was a strange chemical smell coming from your vents. The third said there might be illegal drug activity in your apartment, and that a lot of strange men have been coming and going. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I live alone, work a 9-to-5 job, and have a pretty boring social life. The accusations were laughable and terrifying at the same time. Leon, you know me, I said quietly. I have been a tenant here for 5 years. You have never had a single issue with me. I know, he said. You pay on time. No noise complaints. No damage. But the corporate office gets nervous when they hear the words drug activity. They have already told me I have to schedule a formal unit inspection next week. And if they get one more complaint, they're going to push for an eviction notice under the community safety clause. My chest tightened. This was no longer about a relationship gone bad or a chair. This was about my home, my record, my future. Leon, it is my ex, I said. She is angry because I broke things off and made her move out. She is retaliating. He exhaled again. I figured it might be something like that, he said. I believe you. I really do. But I have to follow procedure. There will be an inspection. And whatever this is, I need you to make it stop. I do not want to lose you as a tenant, but corporate will go over my head. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, legitimately scared for the first time. I'm not rich, but I am not naive. Anonymous accusations about drugs can follow you, even if they are completely false. I needed help. I looked up a local law firm and booked a 1-hour consultation for the next morning. It cost $350, and I paid it without hesitation. The next day, I sat in a quiet office across from an attorney named Carla Wallace. I told her everything. I started with the engagement party, the backup joke, the ring in Terrell's hand, the way Shanice and her friends had harassed me at my door, the police call that first night. I explained about the second police visit, the chair dispute, and now the false reports to my landlord. Carla listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes, her face growing more serious as I spoke. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "This is classic vindictive ex behavior," she said. "She is trying to destabilize your housing and your peace because you set a boundary. The good news is, you have documentation." She asked for the case number from the earlier police incident. I had already requested a copy of the report, and I slid it across the desk. She read it, nodded, then outlined a plan. "First, I'm going to draft a formal cease and desist letter," Carla said. "It will be sent by certified mail to Shanice at her parents' address, and to her two friends, Tanisha and Felicia, whose addresses you said you know. The letter will detail the prior incidents, including the false police claims and the harassment of your landlord. It will inform them that any further contact, direct or indirect, will be used as evidence in a civil lawsuit for harassment, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Second," she continued, "you are going to send an email to your landlord and copy the corporate office. In that email, you will clearly state that you are being targeted by a campaign of false reports from a former fiancé who is angry about being asked to move out. You will attach a copy of the cease and desist letter. This creates a paper trail that shows you are addressing the situation legally and in good faith." I felt some of the tightness in my chest ease. Having a plan made a huge difference. That evening, Carla sent me a draft of the letter. It was formal, sharp, and clear. Reading it made the whole situation feel strangely real in a new way. I approved it, and the next morning, her office sent the letters via certified mail. Meanwhile, I sat down on my laptop and typed out the email to Leon in his corporate office, summarizing the breakup, explaining the false complaints, and attaching the letter. Within a few hours, I received a polite reply from corporate acknowledging the information and stating that the matter of the anonymous reports would be handled as a closed issue once the inspection was complete. The inspection took place the following week. Leon came with a representative from corporate. They walked through my apartment, checking vents, cabinets, closets, and the balcony. The place was clean. No damage. No strange smells. No suspicious activity. Just an ordinary one-bedroom apartment occupied by someone who spends too much time working and scrolling on his phone. The corporate representative thanked me for my cooperation and left. Leon stayed behind for a second, apologized for the hassle, and told me he believed me from the start. After the cease and desist letters went out, something changed almost immediately. The anonymous calls to management stopped. The text messages stopped. The emails stopped. The constant background hum of drama that had been buzzing around my life for weeks went silent. It was strange at first, like when a loud appliance is turned off and you only notice the quiet because it is new. About a week later, I got a text from an unknown number. I stared at it for a moment, then opened it. "Hey, it is Terrell." The message read, "Listen, I am out. This whole thing is crazy. Shanice is out of control." I put the phone down and walked away, but curiosity pulled me back. Another text came through. "She has been staying with me, and she is a nightmare. She wanted me to call your landlord again and say I saw you with a gun. I'm not doing that. I'm not getting arrested for her." I told her to leave. "I am done. Sorry for my part in this." I typed out 3 or 4 different replies, some sarcastic, some furious, one that was just a simple okay, but I deleted each one. In the end, I did not respond at all. There was nothing to say. The moment taking her side required any real risk. He folded. The backup plan was strong enough to smirk at an engagement party, but not strong enough to stand up to serious consequences. Life settled into something like normal after that. I went to work, came home, cooked for one, and started to remember what it felt like to sit in my own living room without waiting for some new crisis to hit my phone. I thought the final chapter of this whole mess had already been written. Then, one evening about 2 months after the engagement party, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost let it go to voicemail. For some reason, I picked up. "Hello," I said. There was a brief pause, then a woman's voice. "Daryl, this is Denise," she said. "Shanice's mother." My pulse jumped. "Denise," I replied carefully. "I'm surprised to hear from you." "Yes, well," she began, the words tight. "I know things ended badly between you and Shanice. I'm not calling to argue about that." "All right," I said. "What can I do for you?" She hesitated, then sighed. "Shanice is not doing well," she said. "She had to move back home. Terrell was not good for her. She's trying to get her freelance work going again, but her back is giving her trouble. She cannot sit at a regular desk chair for very long. That ergonomic chair you have, she says it is the only one that has ever helped her. She says you were just keeping it out of spite." I almost laughed at the sheer nerve. "I'm sorry to hear her back hurts," I said. "That is unfortunate." Denise pushed forward. "She told me you refused to give it back," she said. "She said you were holding it over her head." I kept my voice even. "I am keeping it because I paid $700 for it on my credit card," I said. "She agreed to reimburse me and never did. I am not donating a $700 chair to someone who tried to get me thrown out of my home and spread lies about me." There was a long, frustrated exhale on the other end. "Fine," Denise said finally. "How much would it take for you to let it go?" $700. I replied without hesitation. "That is ridiculous," she snapped. "It is used." "That is the price," I said. "It is the amount I paid. It is the amount she agreed to pay. Frankly, I am being generous. I could charge storage fees for holding it this long." Silence stretched for several seconds. I could hear her breathing. "Can I send you the money electronically?" she asked at last. "Yes," I said. I gave her my payment information. "Once I see $700 come through, I will roll the chair out onto my porch," I told her. "You can send whoever you like to pick it up. I will not speak with Shanice directly." "Fine," Denise muttered, and hung up. Less than a minute later, my phone buzzed with a notification. "Payment received, $700. Note, for the chair." I rolled the chair out to the small porch outside my front door, and I went back inside. I sent a brief text. "The chair is outside." Then I stood by the window, the blinds tilted so I could see without being seen. About an hour later, a battered sedan pulled into the lot. Shanice climbed out of the passenger seat, looking thinner, shoulders tense. She walked quickly to the porch, grabbed the chair without even glancing toward my window, wrestled it into the back seat, and got back in the car. They drove off without a word. After the taillights disappeared, I went back inside and sat in the center of my quiet living room. The apartment was mine again in every way that mattered. No boxes stacked in the corner. No one pounding on the door. No anonymous calls. Just silence and the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. I felt tired, but there was a strange lightness under the fatigue, like a weight had finally been taken off my chest. When I did the math in my head, I realized that the whole ordeal had cost me $630, $280 for the locksmith, $350 for the attorney consultation. The $700 for the chair put me up $70 if you want to look at it that way. But the real cost had never been the money. It had been the months of feeling like I was losing my grip on reality, wondering if my instincts were wrong, if I was unfair, if I was crazy. 4 years is a long time to be with someone and not see the entitlement clearly until it's wrapped in a drunken toast and handed to you in front of your friends. I'm still working on trusting my judgment again. I am not dating. I am not trying to prove anything to anyone. I go to work, come home, cook, sometimes sit on the couch, and just listen to how quiet the apartment is. Peace used to sound boring to me. Now it sounds like a full symphony. A few weeks ago, I picked up the little velvet ring box from the drawer where I had tossed it after that awful night. I opened it and looked at the hammered silver band with its single clear stone. It had been a symbol of something I thought was rare and honest. Now it was just metal and glass and a story I no longer wanted to carry around physically. On a Saturday afternoon, I went to the mall to pick up some things. Near one of the exits, there was a small donation bin for old jewelry, with a sign about repurposing metals and stones for charitable causes. I stood there for a moment, holding the ring between my fingers. Then I dropped it into the slot and listened to the faint clink as it landed among other forgotten promises. I walked out into the parking lot with empty hands. Somewhere, that simple $100 ring will be melted down or reshaped or given to someone else. I hope whoever ends up with it understands what it is worth better than we did. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.